Chapter 341, Sparring. Tang Wuling smiled bitterly. Count me out. I have too many things to do and not a second to spare. I've missed a lot of class after all. More than ever before, Tang Wuling felt pressed for time. He had to keep pace with the intense lectures at Shrek Academy, and now that he had 3 soul rings, there were 2 blacksmith teachers waiting to guide him. He'd be damned if he let a second go to waste. All right then. Shu Shaoan giggled. What kind of spirit soul do you guys think I should get this time? I have plenty of money, and Big Sis Gu Yue said she could snatch me a discount. Tang Wuling thought for a moment. It's best to get a spirit soul that's compatible with you. Of course, since it also depends on the selection available, chance will play a large factor in this. Good luck. Amen. Before they could say anything else, Shen Yi arrived on the platform and approached the lectern. Let's begin class. Tang Wuling whipped his head around to find her staring right at him. Taking the cue, he shot up like a rocket from his seat and shouted, "Stand up." The entire class rose with him. Good morning, teacher. Shen Yi nodded, satisfied. Take your seats. Her gaze moved from Tang Wuling to the rest of the class, sharp and descending like a hawk's. Today we're having combat class. You'll be fighting together in your mecha-making groups. You won't be sparring with each other, but with either me or teacher Wu. Group leaders, lead your groups out. We're leaving now. Shen Yi and Wu Zhangkong made for the door without a second glance. A combat class? The thought left Tang Wuling shocked. Then excitement practically bubbled out of his chest. After all, he just received his 3rd ring and shattered another golden dragon king seal. If not for his potent self-control, Tang Wuling would have rushed out of his seat, eager to test out his new strength. I wonder how combat class will be at Shrek. My group only has 4 people and will be going against Teacher Shen and Teacher Wu. However, we're much stronger than the other groups. We also have Wu Sijuo and her 4 rings. The rest of us have 3 rings. In fact, Wu Sijuo's soul fusion skill is already as powerful as an entire group combined. The sparring arena sat on the south side of the school building's 1st floor. After passing through a wide corridor, the students found themselves in the large circular arena. It was over 100 meters in diameter, with all sorts of machines lining the perimeter for recording battles, analyzing said battles, and acting as safeguards in case of accidents. Unlike where they had fought it out for the class presidency, this was a genuine sparring arena. While injuries inflicted in the virtual battlefield also made their way into reality, the danger of death did not loom above the students. They could not die in there and as such fought more aggressively, taking more risks than they would have had they been in the real world. This was not the case here. Shen Yi and Wu Zhangkong ascended the stage. The students diverted to the sides and lined up at the edges of the platform. Aware of the chit-chat, Tang Wuling gestured for his classmates to quiet down but found that none particularly paid much attention to him. Some outright ignored him. He let out a long sigh. It seems my absence has made me less important in their eyes. There's nothing that can be done about it. I'll just have to work hard to earn their respect. Shen Yi swept her piercing eyes through the crowd. Naturally, combat class consists of live combat. Today's focus is teamwork. As I've said previously, together with your groups, you will fight me or Teacher Wu. Apart from our battle armors, we will use our full power. Her lips curled slightly upward. Any group that defeats us will get full marks. Otherwise, your score will depend on your performance. Decide who you want to fight, me or Teacher Wu. We will also be judging your decision. You will have 5 minutes to discuss. Then the battles will start with the class council group. Gu Yue, Luo Gixing, and Wu Sijuo shuffled closer to Tang Wuling's side. Tang Wuling's face was the picture of apologetic. Sorry about my absence. After breaking through to rank 30, my body encountered some unexpected issues. I had to miss class until my meditation finished. Wu Sijuo acted as though she had not heard his apology at all. We can talk about that after the battle. So, who should we choose? Teacher Wu. Tang Wuling answered immediately. Why? Wu Sijuo raised a brow at him. It's obvious that Teacher Wu is strong. In fact, he should be stronger than Teacher Shen. Gu Yue and I came to Shrek Academy from East the Academy with Teacher Wu. He was our teacher during our time there, so we understand his abilities. Since both teachers are strong, I think it'd be best to minimize the unknown factors in the battle. That's why if we pick Teacher Wu, we can at least plan around his capabilities. I agree, Luo Gixing said. We don't have much time. Give us a quick rundown of Teacher Wu's soul skills. His tone was strong. It gave him the appearance of being the team's leader. Tang Wuling observed his groupmate for a moment, not quite knowing how he felt about that. Shaking his head once, he proceeded to describe Wu Zhangkong's soul skills and the characteristics of his martial soul. What are our roles? Wu Sijuo asked. As she usually fought solo, she was unfamiliar with team tactics. Tang Wuling, you're good at control, but you're even better at attacking. You should be the vanguard, said Luo Gixing. Wu Sijuo, you should launch a sneak attack from the side. I'll be in the center to control the flow of battle, and Gu Yue will provide cover fire from the back. It's our first time fighting together, so our plans can't be too complicated. Simple is key here. Just as Gu Yue opened her mouth to say something, Tang Wuling pulled her hand and said, "All right, let's do as you say." Luo Gixing smiled. Their 5 minutes had come to an end. The 4 of them climbed the stage. We choose Teacher Wu, Luo Gixing said. Tang Wuling stood at the front with Luo Gixing right behind him. Gu Yue was at Luo Gixing's rear, and Wu Sijuo stayed by Tang Wuling's side. It was a peculiar battle formation. Wu Sijuo flicked her gaze to Tang Wuling. Can you keep him occupied? He shook his head. No way. Teacher Wu has 7 rings. I can only buy us a little bit of time. Amen. Do your best, said Wu Sijuo. Tang Wuling, just get us 3 seconds, said Luo Gixing. I'll support you, so don't hold back at all. Okay. Buzzing filled the air as a dome of light covered the arena. Tang Wuling took in a deep breath, his eyes focusing on the figure before him. Standing 50 meters away was Wu Zhangkong, his usual white robes gently billowing in his frigid aura. Begin, announced Shen Yi, crisp voice piercing through the buzzing. Tang Wuling burst into action in the blink of an eye. The ground cracked beneath his feet as he exerted his strength. He leapt toward Wu Zhangkong, his soul rings appearing around him mid-flight, dyeing him in their purple glow. He had 3 purple soul rings now. This was beyond the textbook optimal configuration, and symbolized his strength. Off stage, his peers instantly recognized that he had broken through. Blue silver brass shot out from all around him at his command. They glistened more brightly than before, the veins within them more complex, as if they had transformed from a leaf to a human's. Although he didn't have a full grasp of the changes in his blue silver brass, Tang Wuling knew it had become more powerful. This growth wasn't solely attributed to gaining his 3rd ring. Breaking another golden dragon king seal had also aided in the sublimation of his martial soul. The grass rushed toward Wu Zhangkong like a giant wave of vines. It was his first soul skill, bind. While the vines swarmed Wu Zhangkong, a light flashed in Tang Wuling's eyes, his blood essence boiling over. Golden scales rippled into existence along up his right arm, across his right shoulder, and through most of his torso. Hai's hand transformed into the deadly golden dragon claw. He dared not hold back against Wu Zhangkong, not when Shen Yi had clearly said the teachers would fight at their full strength. Only now did Wu Zhangkong make his move. Soul rings materialized beneath him. First 2 yellow ones, followed by 3 purple rings. Finally, 2 black rings appeared, completing this terrifying configuration. The Skyfrost sword materialized in his hand in an instant, the temperature of the arena instantly plummeting. He pinched the sword's tip with his left hand. With a wiggle of his right, the sword expelled a light into his left palm, blossoming into a flower. It was his first soul skill, Frost Scar. Rather than relying on his swordsmanship, he resorted to his soul skills without another thought. Tang Wuling faced off the mighty aura of the 7-ringed soul sage with clenched teeth. Not once did his blue silver brass relax in its assault against Wu Zhangkong, though a portion had split from the rest and returned to him. It spiraled in front of him to form a shield. Chapter 342, Team Battle against Wu Zhangkong. Frost scars flew through the air, threatening to tear into the tide of blue silver brass. The instant they collided, however, the brass released a dazzling azure light. Instead of slicing it apart, the frost scar only managed to coat it in a layer of frost, freezing it in place. This scene made Wu Zhangkong narrow his eyes, and he nodded to himself in understanding. I may not have used my full strength, but I focused all of my frost scars on a single spot. William's blue silver brass really has grown stronger. It's at least twice as strong as before. At that moment, a silver light blossomed at Wu Zhangkong's feet. Luo Gixing used spatial lock, timing it so that it activated immediately after after Wu Zhangkong used Frost's Scar, the exact moment he was about to send out another soul skill. The enormous difference in their cultivation meant that Luo Gixing couldn't completely restrain Wu Zhangkong. However, he did barely manage to interrupt Wu Zhangkong and keep him from chaining soul skills. Wu Sijuo swooped in at that moment. From the very beginning of the battle, she made sure to stay just one step behind Tang Wuling, ready to pounce at any opening. The instant Luo Gixing tripped up Wu Zhangkong, she dove in with her first soul skill, Hell Rush. She arrived in front of Wu Zhangkong in a shadowy blur, clawing at his ribs. Although it was their first time fighting together, the four of them synced up perfectly. Wu Zhangkong's white robes fluttered as he twisted his body to meet the core strike. His sword blocked it with a resounding metallic ringing. His perfect defense stunning Wu Sijuo. She looked as if she had been struck by lightning. Before Wu Zhangkong could punish her for her mistake, Luo Gixing teleported her away. Tang Wuling took advantage of Wu Sijuo's attack to close the distance between him and Wu Zhangkong. Now in front of Wu Zhangkong, he slashed out with his dragon claw, tearing through the air with an audible hiss. 5 dark gold lights streaked out of his claw. Wu Zhangkong's icy mask finally cracked, revealing a hint of astonishment. His sword shot up to meet this attack with a white sword beam of its own. This beam was much larger than the previous Frost Scar, but it was far simpler in construction, merely resembling a long blade. However, Tang Wuling saw through its plain appearance. In reality, it was an attack composed of thousands of Frost Scars fused together. Although it was Wu Zhangkong's first soul skill, his masterful use of it transformed it into a terrifying beast to be reckoned with. The white sword beam and the golden lights collided in an explosion of particles. Tang Wuling came out of the exchange covered in a layer of frost, but Wu Zhangkong had also been forced back. He blocked it. Tang Wuling unleashed a primal roar and his 3 purple soul rings faded away. A radiant golden soul ring appeared in their place. Blood essence bubbled within him, madly coursing through his body as he activated golden dragon body. Gold light slithered out and coiled around Tang Wuling's body. The roar of a dragon thundered throughout the stadium, and Tang Wuling's entire body took on a golden hue. His right sleeve exploded, revealing his golden scaled right arm bursting with power. Every single scale was erect, and his claw seemed to have grown a bit larger. The power of his surging blood essence instantly dispelled the frost on his body. He slashed with his claw once more, sending another 5 dark gold beams that were each over 2 meters long. The moment they appeared, the space between Tang Wuling and Wu Zhangkong seemed to distort, the dragon roar becoming louder than ever. Moments before this, Luo Gixing teleported Wu Sijuo behind Wu Zhangkong, taking advantage of the time that Tang Wuling bought with his explosive clash against Wu Zhangkong. She summoned her second martial soul. Black and white light swirled around her. Her body grew larger and transforming into the Hell White Tiger. Their opponent was a 7-ring soul sage and a teacher at Shrek Academy. There was no point in holding back or stalling. All they could do was go all out from the beginning. Luo Gixing's plan entailed playing to each of their strengths and having them release their greatest attacks on Wu Zhangkong at the same time. As long as they did that, they would at least be able to properly display their strength. While Tang Wuling attacked Wu Zhangkong from the front with golden dragon dreadclaw, Wu Sijuo attacked him from behind in her Hell White Tiger form. At the same time, quad-colored spears materialized in the air and shot toward Wu Zhangkong's head following a precisely plotted arc. The jaws of basically every spectating student had already dropped. The combined attack of their class council was too ferocious, especially Tang Wuling's golden dragon dreadclaw and Wu Sijuo's Hell White Tiger. Everyone could feel the tempestuous might of the 2 attacks, facing attacks from 3 separate directions. Wu Zhangkong's 4th soul ring lit up as he simply thrust his Frost sword toward the sky. Tang Wuling and Wu Sijuo immediately felt as if they were no longer fighting a human. Instead, they were opposing a towering mountain. They knew they wouldn't be able to shake this mountain no matter what they tried. A hurricane of energy burst forth from Wu Zhangkong. It swept across his opponents, rooting Wu Sijuo, overwhelming Tang Wuling's golden dragon dreadclaw, and finally dispersing the incoming hail of quad-colored spears. A thundering boom shook the arena, the barriers that surrounded it trembling before the shockwave. Tense silence descended upon the spectators as they watched the dust-filled stage with narrowed eyes, impatiently waiting for the dust to settle and reveal the results of the clash. All of a sudden, a buzzing cut through the quiet, and a blue light pierced the sky. It stretched 7 meters into the air, then revealed itself as a gigantic azure greatsword. A wave of cold erupted from it, knocking Tang Wuling and Hell White Tiger off their feet. The giant sword then split into 9 separate swords and shot toward Tang Wuling and Wu Sijuo. Even the spectating students off stage found it hard to breath in the face of the sword's might. Silver light enveloped Wu Sijuo, teleporting her out of harm's way once again. With one of their targets gone, the 9 swords changed direction, focusing all of their frigid power on Tang Wuling. Even if he had 9 lives, Tang Wuling wouldn't survive this onslaught. Wu Zhangkong had used both his 4th and 5th soul skills, Frost Song and Frost Song Moon. He hadn't held anything back, immediately using 2 of his strongest soul skills. There was no way for Tang Wuling to avoid these 9 swords. However, inches before they sliced him to pieces, he disappeared in a flash of silver light. Amazing. All of the spectators turned to gaze at Luo Gixing in awe. This was the second time he teleported his teammates out of harm's way in the nick of time. Furthermore, the second teleport occurred just a split second before Frost Song cleaved Tang Wuling to bits. Even Tang Wuling had been bracing himself to take the attack with his dragon claw. However, the students soon realized that something was wrong. Like them, Luo Gixing wore an expression of shock. He slowly turned his head to look behind him. Earlier, he had teleported Wu Sijuo in front of him to protect him from the wave of cold. Tang Wuling, however, had been teleported to the rear, right next to Gu Yue. Chapter 343, Total Defeat. Luo Gixing stared at Gu Yue in shock. Why you can control space? Gu Yue calmly met his gaze. If you can do it, why can't I? Be careful, Wu Sijuo warned as she turned to take on Wu Zhangkong. She roared into the sky and shot forward, her enormous tiger form becoming transparent. Frost Song moons filled the sky. In the face of Wu Sijuo's charge, Wu Zhangkong only raised his right hand to grasp the enormous Frost Song greatsword. He pointed it toward the heavens, sweeping an icy gaze over his 4 opponents. Instead of attacking with his sword, he thrust his other hand at the incoming Wu Sijuo. His second soul ring lit up, and a white mist burst out of his palm, swallowing the Hell White Tiger up in an instant. Then, he used Frost Song and slashed at the other 3 with dozens of frost scars. Tang Wuling walked in front of Luo Gixing, a cool calm settling on his face. Even though he was facing Wu Zhangkong, he wasn't flustered at all. His soul rings appeared and lit up, and with him at the center of it all, his surroundings started turning translucent. Blue silver grass swarmed out of the ground, clambering up to form a giant net around him. Luo Gixing and Gu Yue, the tightly woven net of vine-like grass did manage to resist the onslaught of frost scars, buying the 3 of them time, but vines soon began to shatter one after another. Tang Wuling willed spears of blue silver grass to erupt from the ground, sending debris flying everywhere. The spears reinforced the net, acting as a secondary defense against the frost scars. With their arrival, the rate at which the frost scars tore through his defenses immediately slowed down. Spin, shouted Gu Yue. With a wave of her hands, her 3 soul rings lit up one by one, conjuring a giant green tornado around her and Tang Wuling. The tornado sucked in the surrounding debris and expanded, quickly turning into a sandstorm similar to the one she used against Wu Sijuo the other day. Luo Gixing, however, hadn't been in the eye of the tornado. It sent Luo Gixing stumbling out of its chaos. However, a vine shot out, wrapped around his waist, then pulled him back to Tang Wuling and Gu Yue. Yue glared at Tang Wuling. You're too kind-hearted. Don't you see that he's targeting you? Tang Wuling could only give her a mixed smile while Luo Gixing's expression darkened. However, shock soon spread across both their faces. Right before their eyes, Gu Yue stepped forward. She wore a brave expression, her 3 soul rings twinkling as waves of power and hate around her. Her hands danced like butterflies, orbs of light continuously popping into existence and dancing in the winds of the tornado. The tornado started out with a green hue, but Gu Yue added icicles to it as it grew larger, mixing with the loose earth to give it a tinge of blue. With the addition of the icicles, the 3 of them could clearly feel the chilling suppression of Wu Zhangkong's Skyfrost sword decrease. Luo Gixing stared blankly at the scene before him. It still isn't over. Gu Yue's hands now took on a silver hue as she shot silver lights into the tornado, giving it a hint of darkness. Luo Gixing was at a loss for words. She can control 4 elements. How can this be? Gu Yue wielded fire, earth, ice, and space, but that wasn't all. She could even fuse them together. Combining 2 elements created a tornado at the peak of the 3-ring level. 3 elements allowed it to reach the level of 4 rings. Fusing 4 elements allowed it to rival the might of Wishijo's Hell White Tiger. However, this was not the end of the quad element tornado. At this point, a tinge of grey tainted the tornado's original green hue. It howled with deathly stillness. A frost star flew into the tornado but was instantly ground to powder. Another flew in right afterward, but the result was exactly the same. Shen Yi had shut off the screens for the final battle. There were some things she couldn't let everyone see after all. This meant that Luo Gixing hadn't seen Gu Yue's final showdown against Wishijo during the competition for the position of class president, so he was completely unaware of how strong she was. It wasn't the sort of thing Wishijo would mention either. As a result, this was Luo Gixing's first time witnessing Gu Yue's strength. Luo Gixing hadn't accepted Tang Wulin becoming the class president. In his view, Tang Wulin's controllability and strength were decent, but nowhere near the peak of power. He thought Tang Wulin had won due to his schemes and luck. In fact, he was confident that he could completely restrain and dominate Tang Wulin in a one-on-one battle. Yet, upon witnessing today's display of the terrifying might of Tang Wulin's golden dragon Dreadclaw, his opinion changed. Although the Dreadclaw couldn't compare to Wishijo's Hell White Tiger, it didn't need time to prepare like a soul fusion skill and could instantly explode with deadly power. Moreover, now that he gained his third soul ring, Tang Wulin's aura was far more overwhelming than before. However, none of that could match Gu Yue's quad element tornado. The fact that she could wield 4 elements to create a fusion attack in the middle of battle proved that she possessed spiritual power in the Spirit Sea realm at the very least. Even as a ranker, Luo Gixing felt lacking before her, so she's the strongest person in our class. But she yielded the class president position to Tang Wulin. Does that mean there's still something more to him? Countless questions popped into Luo Gixing's head. As the tornado raged on, the frost mist covering the area outside of it receded. The Hell White Tiger was nowhere to be seen, and only a motionless Wishijo stood in its place. Her entire body sparkled in the light, frozen solid. Wei Zhangkong withdrew the frost song moon filling the sky. Then his third soul ring lit up, indicating that the time for his Skyfrost slash had arrived. He didn't move a single step forward. Instead, he simply commanded his giant frost song greatsword to slash downward. A 10-meter-long sword light shot out, traveling 50 meters to slice the tornado apart, instantly dispelling it. Not even a quad element fusion attack could withstand the might of the Skyfrost slash enhanced by frost song. Furthermore, the collision of soul skills only slowed the sword light down, causing it to just dim slightly. The tornado was destroyed in an instant. By the time Tang Wulin, Gu Yue, and Luo Guoxing could be seen, Wu Zhangkong had already sheathed his sword. Fools. He stared at them with icy eyes. The word resounded with truth. The battle had ended, and Tang Wulin's group had lost. Without Wishijo's Hell White Tiger, and considering how exhausted the rest of them were, if Wu Zhangkong had pressed the attack, they would have been defeated in an instant. This single word of criticism made the 3 feel ashamed. All of them understood what he meant. They only coordinated with each other properly at the beginning of the battle. However, they fell apart shortly after Luo Gixing teleported Wishijo out of danger, and Gu Yue did the same for Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin and Gu Yue's teamwork was nowhere near perfect, especially when the reluctant Luo Gixing was added to the mix. Their coordination had self-destructed in a splendid fashion. The 4 of them combined couldn't stand on equal footing with Wu Zhangkong, let alone when their teamwork was in shambles. Wu Zhangkong slammed one of his palms against Wishijo's body, dispelling the frost that covered her and jolting her awake. Although she had been completely frozen moments before, not even the slightest shiver could be seen in her now thawed body. The 4 of them hung their heads as they descended from the stage. Shen Yi didn't contribute any words of criticism and simply ordered the next group to go up. Wishijo looked from Tang Wulin to Luo Gixing. She then snorted and walked away, wearing an ugly expression as she looked for somewhere to sit. Tang Wulin sighed. This was my fault. I underestimated Teacher Wu. Now that he has 7 rings, he's at least 2 times stronger than before. I also didn't properly coordinate with everyone either. Luo Gixing didn't respond. He just walked away silently, searching for a place to sit as well. Are you the team leader? Gu Yue glared at Tang Wulin. No, you're not. So why are you taking all the blame? He's the one who made a plan for the team, but you don't hear him saying anything. Hearing this, Luo Gixing turned to look at Gu Yue, anger flashing in his eyes, but Gu Yue ignored him. Tang Wulin knitted his brow. It was impossible to become a battle armor master alone. To do that, he needed everyone's wholehearted cooperation. Things definitely weren't happening as he had hoped they would. Chapter 344. Dispelling doubts. Making a one-word battle armor at their level called for surpassing their limits. If Tang Wulin and his group didn't stand united, this would all be a pipe dream. However, it was clear that neither Wishijo nor Luo Gixing respected Tang Wulin. This was natural since he was the class president, the position making him the target of much attention and hostility in his class. Do I really want all of this? But Tang Wulin wasn't one to shrink back from his responsibilities. Now that he was the class president, he would do his best to fulfill the role no matter the challenges. He patted Gu Yue on the shoulder, conveying to her that he didn't need her to speak up for him. He approached Luo Gixing's side and took a seat. You're very strong and good at commanding, but you can't deny that right now, I am the first grade's class president, Tang Wulin said quietly. Luo Gixing's brows arched. So what? Tang Wulin smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. It's nothing much. I just wanted to tell you that you have no chance of taking my position this semester. You're a smart person, so you should know internal strife will just set us all back. Even if you don't respect me, you still have to cooperate with me. We are in the same group currently, a team, and we're also the first grade's class council. Cultivating is like rowing a boat upstream. It's not easy and takes a lot of effort. If we want to exceed our peers, then we need to discard our grudges and focus on cultivating. I guarantee you that as a blacksmith, I'll treat everyone equally and forge to the best of my ability. I will work myself to the bone to meet everyone's expectations, especially so we can succeed in making one-word battle armor. I will also promise you that by the end of the semester, we will all have several pieces of battle armor. We will all be on the same stage when it comes to that. So if you plan to snatch the class president seat from me, work hard, grow and improve. Then come next semester, try to defeat me. He left Luo Gixing alone to mull over those words and made his way to Wishijo. Because she had a good pair of ears and sat not too far from Luo Gixing, Wishijo had heard everything Tang Wulin said. She raised her head as he drew near. Eyes fixed on him. I'm the one to blame for this battle's loss. Tang Wulin returned her stare, the words leaving his lips steady and unfaltering. I didn't coordinate properly with everyone and underestimated Teacher Wu's strength. We might not be friends, but we have to be comrades. So, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a 4th-ranked blacksmith. I'm actually a 5th-rank one. That statement brought all sorts of shivers down her spine. Catching sight of her reaction, Tang Wulin broke into a smile. Becoming friends with me, someone who could be a divine blacksmith in the future, is a good idea. After all, our goal is 4-word battle armor in the future, right? He extended his hand to Wishijo. After a moment of hesitation, she took it and gave it a firm shake. Today after class, I'll go forge the metal for our battle armors. As they drew back their hands, a voice sounded off to their side. What you said was right, Luo Gixing said as he walked over, clearly finished with his thoughts. Tang Wulin turned to face him. This time, Luo Gixing took the initiative to offer his hand. You are the class president and our group's leader, but if you ever make a mistake, then you'll have to take responsibility. I'll be waiting for that time to come. Tang Wulin accepted his gesture. Thank you for your encouragement. Their gazes clashed in the air, sparks firing off all around. Despite Luo Gixing's arrogant nature, he had no choice but to concede, for he couldn't face off against Tang Wulin at this moment. He had to get stronger. Luo Gixing's #1 priority was always improving himself after all. If he couldn't outclass Tang Wulin during their time in the outer court, then he would never stand at the peak. Tang Wulin, Gu Yue, and Wishijo were all targets for him to surpass. Meanwhile, Tang Wulin beckoned Gu Yue over to him. He released Luo Gixing's hand and placed his own face down in the center. Gu Yue dropped her hand above his with practiced movements. Wishijo and Luo Gixing exchanged a glance before adding their hands on top of a pile. Shen Yi, who had been paying attention to their group since the beginning of the battle, curved her lips into a satisfied smile as she watched the 4 finally attaining group solidarity. Challenges aren't scary, but not knowing how to overcome them is. I have no doubt that Tang Wulin doesn't lack in that regard. Senior brother's judgment was correct. He's a born leader. As the rest of the battles rolled by, Tang Wulin's group watched them carefully. The group immediately after them also chose Wu Zhangkong. Afterward, some decided to try their chances with Shen Yi. They were all crushed in the end. Only Xu Yucheng and Yang Nyax's groups lasted more than a few minutes. Both Wu Zhangkong and Shen Yi had 7 soul rings. As soul sages, the soul power they consumed to defeat the students was but a drop in the ocean. Following this exercise in group combat, the students came to acknowledge the 2 teachers' might. They were all all powerless before the two. After combat class, everyone had made various gains and losses from the battles, but neither Shen Yu nor Wei Zhangkong stepped forward to comment. They simply ended classes for the day. This was Shrek Academy's teaching style. Students were left to ponder and comprehend on their own without excessive pointers from others. Whether the students could identify the problem and come up with a solution was up to them. Only those who could walk this path to the very end were called true geniuses. Let's grab lunch before we discuss making the battle armors. Tang Wuling had grabbed hold of Luo Guizing, Wisujuo, and Gu Yue as soon as class ended. Together, the four of them made for the dining hall. Tang Wuling's bottomless pit of a stomach shocked their two new companions. By the time he finished eating, Wisujuo was staring at the mountain of dishes, face pallid and taut. How can you eat this much? Who raised you like this? It's none of your business, Gu Yue blurted out. Seated to the side, Luo Guizing moved his gaze to Tang Wuling then to Gu Yue, and he got the picture. At the same time, Wisujuo glared at Gu Yue, cold enough to freeze. Just as she was about to speak out, Tang Wuling interrupted. Let's go. We need to rent a room. There are lots of workshops at the Blacksmiths Association, so let's just rent one there and use it as our base. Making battle armors was definitely their top priority at the moment, and the four left for the Blacksmiths Association. Tang Wuling found Feng Wuyu when they got there, quickly going over the purpose of their visit. Man. All right. I'll give you kids a room. It'll cost you kids 1,000 contribution points every month. Feng Wuyu said with a smile. Thank you, teacher. Tang Wuling made to leave with his companions, but Feng Wuyu suddenly grabbed his arm. Wait. I'll give you 2 hours. After that, come find me. We'll go over forging. You don't have any time to waste, right? All right. 2 hours should be enough. Tang Wuling smiled wryly. He feared the crazed light gleaming in Feng Wuyu's eyes. This teacher of his was unpredictable to the extreme. However, he couldn't help but be curious about what Feng Wuyu would teach him now that he was capable of attempting spirit refining again. 2 hours was more than enough time to 1,000 refine some metal. Although Tang Wuling already had heavy silver and magic silver in stock, Wisujuo and Luo Guizing had just chosen their metals at the Blacksmiths Association. Wisujuo's was Stygian iron, a rare darkness attribute metal with a chilling aura of bloom. Its nature was peculiar and few could use it properly. As a result, it was fairly inexpensive. Luo Guizing chose 1,000 moment copper, a space attribute metal. It was perfect for him, and wasn't too pricey for a mid-grade metal. Tang Wuling could barely conceal his approval of their selections. No one had overestimated their abilities and chosen top-grade metals beyond what they could use. Doing so would have severely hindered the battle armor making process, no matter how well he could forge the metals. Chapter 345. The first battle armor piece. The main purpose of making one-word battle armor was to prepare for the future. Once the time came for Tang Wuling's group to make 2-word battle armor, they would be able to use completely new materials. They wouldn't be restricted to the metals they chose now. Upon entering their rented workshop, or shone in Luo Guizing's eyes when he saw how large it was. Elder Feng treats you really well. The workshop was at least 150 square meters in area. The space was at least twice as large as what people could normally rent, and it was filled with all the best equipment and tools. An empty shelf for metals stood off to one side. All of this came at the cheap price of 1,000 contribution points a month. Now this was the benefit of having connections. Tang Wuling smiled shyly. We can talk about that after 1,000 refine your metals. Gu Yue, have you drawn up any rough designs yet? We'll need to discuss them before I get to forging. Gu Yue nodded. I've already been getting feedback from the other two these past few days. I understand your situation as well, so I was able to get some first drafts done. She walked over to the forging table and took blueprints out of her storage ring. With one in hand, she turned to face them. For the first piece of our battle armors, I decided on armor for our right hands. I chose this piece because it's the easiest to use in combat and will immediately result in the largest increase in power. She unfurled the blueprint in her hands, then pointed at the various drawings. Hand armor is made of separate parts that cover the actual hand, extend past the forearm, and go all the way to the elbow. So really, it's armor for both your hand and forearm. This is the design I drafted for you. You chose heavy silver, the main property of which is soul power amplification. After thinking about what would suit you best, I concluded that, since your hand can transform into the golden dragon claw, it would be essential for your hand armor to expand alongside it. To accommodate that, I added a transformation circuit core in the palm that will allow the armor to transform along with your arm. I also left holes in the fingertips of the armor for your claws since they're already extremely sharp weapons anyway. To amplify your blood essence and soul power, I added circuit cores to the back of the hand armor. This is a dual loop circuit core I specially designed. Gu Yue went over the entire design without leaving out a single detail. Tang Wuling was stunned by how meticulous and complex her work was. Designers are awesome. This was Tang Wuling's first time learning about circuit cores and seeing the complexity hidden within designs. Making this design a reality would clearly be difficult. Tang Wuling stole a glance at Wisujuo and Luo Guizing. He couldn't discern any strange change in expression, a clear sign that Gu Yue's design was on the right track. Any piece of one-word battle armor needs at least 3 circuit cores, Gu Yue said, wrapping up her explanations. In comparison, each piece of 2-word armor needs 5 circuit cores. These circuit cores have to be built into the metal itself, so high-quality refined metal is required. 1,000 refined metal is the bare minimum for making one-word armor. Tang Wuling nodded. It's a good thing I saw your designs first. Now I know what to focus on improving when I forge the metal. After I finish refining it, I'll shape it according to the designs. While I shape it, I'll refine it a second time and make the metal stronger or more flexible, whichever is more suited to the design. Luo Guizing looked at Tang Wuling in shock. You can refine a metal twice. He once heard that twice refined metal was essential in making battle armor. Tang Wuling nodded. Luo Guizing looked him in the eye. If that's true, then I feel a lot better about the plan now. Making our battle armors should be easier than I thought. Then let's get started. Tang Wuling replied. We'll take one step at a time. Gu Yue, iron out the rest of the designs and make them flawless. I'm going to begin the first refining of our metals. Once you've perfected your designs, I'll do the second refining. All right. Each of the 4 had their respective profession, and all were talented in their own field. With their common goal to become battle armor masters, they temporarily set their differences aside to work together. An hour later, 4 twinkling metals sat on the forging table. They were chunks of first-grade 1,000 refined heavy silver, magic silver, Stygian iron, and 1,000 moment copper. It had only taken Tang Wuling an hour to 1,000 refine 4 chunks of metal. Every time he finished, a beam of light shot a meter into the air, signifying that it had been imbued with spirit. Tang Wuling had appeared utterly relaxed throughout the entire process. Despite the discontent harbored for him, Wisujuo and Luo Guizing had to admit that he was the best blacksmith they could have hoped for. The 4 shining pieces of refined metal were proof of that. Do you have any suggestions for my hand armor design? Gu Yue asked. Tang Wuling thought to himself for a moment, stroking his chin. I think it's perfect as is. My right arm is my main means of attack, so making my golden dragon claw stronger is the best thing for my hand armor to do. As for my blue silver grass, it'll be fine as long as the armor doesn't hinder it. I trust in your skills. Good, said Gu Yue. I'll have you approve my designs once I finish them. We're going to discuss the rest of the designs and the making process now. If you have something to do, feel free to leave. All right. I'm going to find Elefeng. If you guys need anything, give me a call. Luo Guizing watched Tang Wuling as he went out the door. Then he turned to Gu Yue. Has he always been this good at blacksmithing? Gu Yue looked at him in disdain. She obviously still held a grudge against him for his actions in the match. Don't you know? Some people are just blessed by the heavens. Luo Guizing just smiled meekly in response. He went over to the blueprints and examined them. This part of the design is too complex. It'll be too hard for me to make it like this, so you should revise it. The 3 of them continued discussing the designs without Tang Wuling. As for him, he went to go find Feng Wuyu. Tang Wuling liked how busy his life was. Everything was going according to the plan he set for both himself and his companions. Although Shishi and Shu Shaoan weren't a part of his group, they would forever be members of Class 0 and his trusted comrades. He naturally hadn't forgotten about them and already had the perfect solution for their predicaments. Yuan and Yui was in her male disguise as usual. Not a single thing about her was out of place. Just as she entered the dormitory, its tidiness astounded her. The floor had been swept. Not a single speck of dust to be seen. Then she arrived at her room and found a bucket of clean water sitting just outside the oven. Who did this? She opened her door and carried the bucket in. Her brow furrowed. A few people flashed through her mind. Could it have been Tang Wuling? No way. Considering how much he eats, I bet he's still gorging himself at the dining hall. Only the heavens knew how Tang Wuling would react if he knew what Yuan and Yui thought of him. Was it Yui's Heng Yu then? There's no way that guy is this nice. Even though he definitely knows I'm not an evil soul master now, he still tries to pick fights with me in class. Could it be him then? A tall, thin figure popped into her mind. His handsome features fixed into a mischievous smile that held a hint of haughtiness. Then she imagined herself beating him up. Humph. Yuan and Yui clenched her fists at the thought of the boy. She grabbed the bucket of water, stomped to her door, opened it, then threw all of the water out, and slammed the door shut. After putting the bucket down, she placed her hands on her hips. That hadn't lessened her anger one bit. It took her a long time to calm down. Letting out a long sigh, she pulled open the blinds. Since they know now, there's no point keeping this charade up while at the dormitory. She walked over to her bed and took off her coat and wig, exposing her dark red hair. She took a moment to rub her face, her pretty features soon resurfacing. Then a popping sound emanated from her bones and she grew a bit taller, her womanly curves becoming more pronounced. My original appearance really is the most comfortable. She touched her cheeks, basking in the change, when all of a sudden, pain flashed through her eyes. She stumbled over to her bed, hands clutching her head as she toppled onto it. Her body began to twitch, and her jaw clenched so tightly that it was on the verge of breaking. Spasms racked her body as her eyes gradually went scarlet. Tears streamed down her face as dread began to creep inside of her. All she could see before her eyes was a sea of blood. No! She screamed, forcing herself upright. As she sat on her bed gasping for breath, the door flew open with a bang, and a figure charged into the room. What's going on? Are you okay? Chapter 346. Alloy. Yuan and Yui looked up at Shishi, who had barged in. He met her scarlet eyes and gulped, then meekly asked, "Hey, are you okay?" Shishi had been waiting for her the entire time. Just like Yuan and Yui had suspected, he was the one who cleaned the dormitory. He had drawn the bucket of water outside her door as well, using his shadow dragon dagger to invisibly lurk in the vicinity, waiting for Yuan and Yui to return. When he saw her dump out the bucket of water, he felt as though he were getting punched in the gut. Just as he was about to leave, however, he heard her pain screams and charged into her room without a second thought. Only as he stared into her crimson eyes did he start to feel awkward. "Get out!" she screamed. Shishi turned tail and ran off. Fear continued to linger in his heart when it came to her. The memory of her attempting to kill him had been burned into his mind, and even as he ran out, Shishi did not forget to close the door behind him. Yuan and Yui panted for breath as she wiped tears from her face. She then curled up in her bed, gripping her blanket tightly. "Do you know what the greatest difference is between blacksmiths who can spirit refine and those who can't?" Feng Wuyu asked Tang Wuling. "Well, they can spirit refine," Tang Wuling answered. "That's a shit answer. It's nowhere near as simple as that. Just what has Mu Chen been teaching you?" Feng Wuyu glared at Tang Wuling, the intensity in his gaze forcing the boy to stumble backward a step. "Teacher Mu said that I shouldn't bite off more than I can chew. That he'll teach me what I need to know about spirit refining when I could actually do it," Tang Wuling answered meekly. "That way, I can focus on improving my skills." "Nonsense," Feng Wuyu shouted. His way of teaching is half-assed. Only with a comprehensive understanding of your blacksmithing path will you be able to properly prepare and progress on it. Now pay attention. I'll teach you just what a grandmaster blacksmith is. Prior to spirit refining, blacksmiths only need have to work according to routine. In other words, they just have to practice skilled labor. After spirit refining, blacksmiths can finally show their flair and character in their work. This is a major milestone for blacksmiths. Feng Wuyu paused for a moment, letting the information sink in. Herein lies the greatest difference between 4th and 5th rank blacksmiths. From now on, in addition to single, homogeneous metals, you'll be forging alloys. Alloys? The idea left Tang Wuling dumbstruck, and an inkling of what was to come began forming in his mind. To spirit refine is to bestow life upon metals, Feng Wuyu declared. You've succeeded in doing so once before, so let me ask you this. When you were spirit refining, what was the hardest part of the process? Giving the metal life, Tang Wuling answered instantly. The metal gradually gains intelligence while being forged, and after reaching a certain level of intelligence, its very nature transforms. At that moment, we blacksmiths need to imbue it with our vitality to awaken the metal and grant it true life. Only then will the spirit refining succeed. Also, since metal has no life to begin with, the degree to which we can awaken its intelligence is crucial to the chances of successfully spirit refining. Not bad, kid. That's a pretty good explanation. Now, what does the innate nature of the metal have to do with the difficulty of bestowing it life? The better the metal, the easier it is to spirit refine. The creation of life is one of the universe's most important matters. In the split second life is created, there is a burst of unperceivable energy. This energy is what we call life energy, and it's the basis of all life. While we may not be able to sense this energy, lifeless objects are extremely sensitive to it. If an object manages to absorb that energy, it gains life, but if it doesn't, it's ravaged by that energy and reduced to garbage. This is why failed spirit refinings result in metal that can no longer be used. Your overwhelming vitality is a large part of why you succeeded in your first spirit refining. Your life force poured into the heavy silver along with your blood essence, strengthening it and ultimately allowing it to gain life. You accidentally succeeded at an extremely difficult procedure that we blacksmiths call fledgling lifeguard. Not all blacksmiths are capable of this, and even Saint blacksmiths only succeed 30% of the time. So, after countless experiments, we came up with another method to increase the success rate of spirit refining. The basis of that method is the improvement of the metal's strength and its ability to absorb life energy. In order to do that, we forge alloys. Alloys are just what you're thinking of, a combination of multiple metals into one. Although they see extensive use in mechas, they're different from the kind I'm talking about. Alloys used in mechas are made by simply melting different metals into liquid, mixing them together, fixing the ratios, and shaping the completed product. Some chemicals are even used to help with the process. The alloys I'm referring to, however, are forged by hand and hammer alone. Blacksmiths also need to carefully mix metals and make sure that the ratios are correct, but we merge them by forging them together, evenly shaping the resulting alloy to strengthen it and bring out the best of its properties. We then finish off the alloy by spirit refining, and at high levels, soul refining it. The moment a metal is spirit refined, the future of its growth is decided. From today onward, I will be teaching you how to forge alloys. Once you can skillfully forge 10 alloys, we'll move on to spirit refining. This way, your chances of success will be higher. Tang Wuling had been listening earnestly the entire time, but Feng Wuyu's final words made his eyes start sparkling with excitement. After he managed to reach a 100% success rate with first grade 1000 refinement, Tang Wuling had actually had no idea how to progress further. After years of forging, he was exceptionally familiar with a wide variety of metals, and his 1000 refining technique had been polished to perfection. While spirit refining did bestow life to a metal, it did not significantly improve the metal's properties. Spirit refining was mainly done to allow metal to merge with its user. Tang Wuling knew all of this, but he didn't know what his next step was supposed to be. Even though he knew about soul refining, he didn't know how to do it or what it did. Beyond that was the fabled heavenly refining, something he only knew the name of. Tang Wuling had been at a complete loss as to how he should proceed, but hearing Feng Wuyu's explanation of alloys was like a seeing new door open before him. Learning how to forge alloys would allow him to reach greater heights as a blacksmith, and he had no doubt that high-level battle armors used alloys as a base. This is probably what teacher Mu wanted to talk to me about. Everything is different now that I've reached the 5th rank. It's a whole new world. Feng Wuyu continued to teach Tang Wuling about alloys, how to forge them, and most importantly, their formulas. Countless rounds of trial and error resulted in the creation of formulas that were passed down through the generations from master to disciple. Each and every formula was a precious inheritance. Alloy formulas were categorized as either common or rare. Rare formulas would be considered secrets that only a few privileged individuals were allowed to know. Common formulas, on the other hand, were basically available to the general public. The more metals used in forging an alloy, the harder it was to forge it. This happened because the number of transformations that occurred in the mixture went up with each additional metal. This made formulas that included more metals all the more valuable. Common grade alloy formulas generally used 2 to 3 metals. Any formula that listed more than 3 metals was considered a rare formula, and rarity increased with the number of metals involved. Unknown to Tang Wuling, inheritance became important once a blacksmith began learning how to forge alloys. The Blacksmiths Association even restricted the sale of common grade alloy formulas to talented blacksmiths alone. Fortunately, Tang Wuling had Feng Wuyu and Mu Chen, 2 saint blacksmiths, as masters. He didn't need to worry about obtaining alloy formulas. Chapter 347, Picking up a treasure. Unknown to Tang Wuling, inheritance became crucial once a blacksmith began learning how to forge alloys. Even the common grade alloy formulas were restricted in sale by the Blacksmiths Association to talented blacksmiths. Fortunately for Tang Wuling, he had Feng Wuyu and Mu Chen, 2 saint blacksmiths, as his masters. He needn't worry about obtaining alloy formulas at all. Feng Wuyu's teaching style was completely different from Mu Chen's. While Mu Chen was gentle and understanding, Feng Wuyu was short-tempered and impatient. If Tang Wuling made a single mistake, the workshop would shake with Feng Wuyu's roars. Only after 4 long hours of forging did Tang Wuling's sturdy body finally give in to exhaustion. Teacher, I'm hungry. Tang Wuling said feebly. All right, go eat then. Come back when you're done. We can still fit in 3 more hours of blacksmithing tonight. Did you think blacksmithing was all fun and games? Don't be a fool. If the Metal ratio of the mixture is even a tiny bit off. It won't qualify to even be called an alloy. Combining multiple metals into one is a slow and complicated process. If the ratio is off, they won't form a cohesive whole. Yes. Tang Wuling listened earnestly. Although this teacher of his had a terribly violent nature, his critiques always hit the nail on the head, and he answered all of Tang Wuling's questions with ease. Besides, Tang Wuling wouldn't give in to nearly this much pressure. Now shoo. Feng Wuyu waved him off. Go and get dinner. Tang Wuling turned and ran out the door. The instant he was out of sight, Feng Wuyu's angry expression eased into grin, and he began dancing around the room in joy. Haha. I've really picked up a treasure this time. That kid's well worth his price. He's a real prodigy. He's already forged alloy of this level on his first try. If he isn't a prodigy, he's a monster. Haha. I have such good eyes. Tang Wuling's hardships were only beginning. He attended classes in the morning and learned from Feng Wuyu in the afternoon thrice a week. He was slowly figuring out the trick to forging alloys, and his blacksmithing skills were rapidly improving. Yet Feng Wuyu still forbid him from attempting to spirit refine. What? He taught you how to forge alloys? Mu Chen stared at Tang Wuling in astonishment. Is there something wrong with that, teacher? Tang Wuling met his teacher's gaze with doubtful eyes. Between making battle armor, learning from Feng Wuyu, and keeping up with his cultivation, Tang Wuling had recently been deprived of nearly all his free time. He only managed to pay Mu Chen a visit after scraping together every second he could. Of course not. The corner of Mu Chen's mouth began to twitch. Do you know what rank people usually begin learning about alloys? The sixth. The sixth rank. Fifth rank blacksmiths only need to know how to spirit refine, even if their chances of success are extremely low. A single successful spirit refining elevates a blacksmith to the fifth rank. However, to get to the sixth rank, a blacksmith needs to be able to forge at least 6 2-metal alloys and 3 3-metal alloys. Teaching you about alloys when you haven't even solidified your spirit refining foundation is just irresponsible. Huh? Tang Wuling's eyes widened at Mu Chen's words. Elder Feng, why do you always stray from the beaten path? A pensive expression appeared on Mu Chen's face. This lasted for a few moments, and then he leapt to his feet. Follow me. Mu Chen led Tang Wuling into a workshop on the same floor that was taller and larger than the others. This was the personal workshop of the association's president. He stopped in the center of the room, then turned to face Tang Wuling. Many different alloys exist, a large number of which are available for civilian use. Alloys are one of the government's key areas of research. While there are some alloys that can be processed by machines, as blacksmiths don't even consider them true alloys. Those are just several metals melted down and mixed together. That mechanical process destroys both the strengths of the metals and the life they held, so we call them spiritless alloys. Only true alloys forged by blacksmiths are called spirit alloys. The difference between the two is evident in their value. If you compare two alloys, a spirit alloy and a spiritless alloy, the spirit alloy would be 1,000 times more valuable. To display their full potential, spirit alloys need to be spirit refined at the very least. You also need to become skilled at forging spirit alloys if you want to become a saint blacksmith, because when the time comes for you to soul refine, you won't be able to use just any metal. Regular metals aren't strong enough in being soul refined, so you will only be able to use alloys. Since Feng Wuyu has already begun teaching you how to forge them, I don't want to overwhelm you. Instead of teaching you how to spirit refine on top of that, I'll teach you the specifics of forging alloys. Understood? Show me what you've learned. Mu Chen ordered. Let me see you forge an alloy. Just make whatever you're best at. Yes. Tang Wuling walked over to the shelf of metals and quickly picked out 2. One was heavy silver and the other was magic silver. If he used heavy silver and magic silver, he could create an alloy called jade silver. The most important part of forging spirit alloys was ensuring that the product retained the spiritual nature of its components. This was what separated them from spiritless alloys. Jade silver possessed the strengths of both heavy silver and magic silver. As one of the better 2-metal alloys, it reinforced those strengths. Tang Wuling put the 2 metals into forging table's furnace and began calcining them. He stood there in silence, eyes shut, patiently waiting for the moment they would be ready for hammering. Off to the side, Mu Chen observed Tang Wuling's steady breathing and nodded in approval. This child is outstanding. Unlike most people, he's able to remain calm. Seconds ticked by, and soon enough, the calcining of the metals had completed. Tang Wuling pushed a button, bringing out the heavy silver first. He raised his hands, his twin hammers appearing in them in a flash. He lightly tapped the heavy silver with the hammer in his left hand, then struck with the one in his right. The stacked hammers effect triggered, and 3 booms resounded in a row, marking the beginning of the forging process. The hammers carried a tremendous amount of force, each strike visibly distorting the resilient heavy silver. No more than a minute later, Tang Wuling finished 100 refining it. Then the magic silver emerged, and he 100 refined it as well. The pair of 100 refined metals sat on the table side by side. Tang Wuling spread his arms wide in a sweeping gesture, then brought them hurtling toward the 2 metals. His hammer smashed the metals together, and a series of booms thundered throughout the room, overlapping to become one unified burst of sound. Mu Chen watched this scene unfold with rapt attention. This was a high-level blacksmith technique. A single difference in angle or force between his 2 strikes would make the fusion fail. Tang Wuling swung his arms out again, and this time 3 purple soul rings popped into existence around him. Then he swept his arms inward once more, his hammers whistling toward the fusing metals. Forging alloys wasn't as simple as smashing 2 metals together. The process required a constant infusion of soul power to bridge the gap between the metals until they reached a balance. Only this could preserve the spiritual nature of the metals and sublimate their properties in the finished product. 3 rings? Mu Chen stared at Tang Wuling in shock. He wasn't aware that Tang Wuling had gained his 3rd soul ring. This progress is too fast. Wasn't he just ranked 28 the other day? He's already broken through to rank 30. He thought that Tang Wuling's strength had increased, but now he realized the boy had grown much more than just that. 2 hammers descended once more, filling the room with thunder. A layer of white soul power enveloped the partially fused metals. The mysterious heaven method influenced soul power, having it flow out in a steady but vigorous stream to connect the 2 metals. Under Tang Wuling's steady hammering, the metals kept transforming. They squished together, and the line that indicated which metal was which began to blur. An hour later, when the 2 metals completely merged into one, Tang Wuling's hammering lightened up from crashing strikes to gentle taps. He tapped it with the hammer in his left hand. The hammer in his right quickly followed at the opposite end to keep the metal in place. His 2 hammers alternated in this way as they lightly tapped the metal, causing it to slowly start spinning. Tang Wuling continued tapping the metal as it spun, each gentle strike adding to its momentum. It was as if he were forging a metal whirlwind on the table. Chapter 348, Spirit Alloy. Spin forging. Is he capable of doing even this? Mu Chen finally came to realize he had not known his disciple as well as he thought. His philosophy had dictated that as long as a student established a solid foundation and he was there to steadily guide them, success would follow like water downstream. As such, he had been livid after catching wind of Feng Wuyu's actions. That eccentric taught Tang Wuling about alloys, breaking the gradual pace he had set for his student. Yet before his eyes, Tang Wuling was forging the alloy without a hitch, his hands full of care and his craft methodical. At first glance, Mu Chen had thought his disciple would create the alloy by press forging, but now it was clear that would not be the case. He switched to spin forging, a far more demanding process. That said, in exchange for requiring more skill, taking longer, and consuming more soul power, it produced alloys with greater harmony and consistency. Normally, 5 soul rings were required to spin forge. Tang Wuling only had 3. Nevertheless, he had been aware of this and applied a trick in order to bypass this obstacle. By press forging it in the beginning, Tang Wuling treated the alloy to the point where he could finish the process with spin forging, and he had more than one trick up his sleeve. His hammers came crashing down non-stop, emitting light as the metal spun faster and faster. Is he alternating between using soul power and raw strength? Mu Chen stared in shock. Can he really succeed without soul power strengthening his body? Soul power was mainly used in forging to create a connection between blacksmith and metal. If the blacksmith stopped supplying soul power, however, the connection could hold for a while longer before sizzling out. Tang Wuling took advantage of this phenomenon, only working in bursts of pure strength. While it was mentally exhausting to maintain the residual connection, providing soul power at the cusp of its death, this technique saved him a wealth of soul power in the long run. Seconds ticked by. then minutes. Yet not once did Tang Wuling pause in his time-consuming task. He needed to constantly adjust for the changes and harmonization of the two metals. It was taxing and sipped away at his soul power. An hour soon crept by. Tang Wuling's focus had not waned since the beginning, his mind and body working at optimal settings and his soul power dwindling at a steady rate. By carefully timing his switches and using the mysterious heaven method, which had improved after he obtained his third soul ring, he could persist in spin forging. Astonishment practically dripped from Yu Chen's form. He had never thought his disciple was this advanced. Alloy forging was a completely different beast from spirit refining. While spirit refining taxed a blacksmith's mind, body, and soul power, alloy forging tested a blacksmith's technique and understanding of metal. Tang Wuling had spent 3 years polishing his 1,000 refining skills, which helped him build an exceptional foundation and an understanding of metal far beyond his same ranked peers. He had unknowingly prepared for this the whole time. After 2 hours, Tang Wuling's forehead became slick with sweat, his body swaying from fatigue. Not much was left in his soul power reserves after 3. Even so, the strikes of his hammer never stopped and the metal continued to spin. Sucking in a deep breath, Tang Wuling's gaze sharpened and his blood essence roared. His 3 purple soul rings, a golden one appearing in their place. His body shuddered in tune to the golden soul rings' radiant shine, his right arm swelling with strength. Golden scales rippled into existence across his arm and chest. With each stroke of the hammer, a hint of gold spread further into the white whirlpool of light gathering around the metal. The gold ate away at the white with every strike, and soon the whirlpool was a brilliant gold throughout. His unrestrained blood essence rose the temperature in the room several degrees. It coursed through his body so loudly even Yu Chen could hear it. Although Yu Chen had been aware of Tang Wuling's blood essence soul ring, this was the first time he experienced for himself the extent in which Tang Wuling's blood essence had strengthened since coming to Shrek Academy. If there was something Tang Wuling couldn't accomplish with 3 soul rings, then he would pull through with his blood essence soul ring and bodily strength. However, now that he activated Golden Dragon Body, he could no longer use the previous switching method to conserve soul power. He redoubled his efforts, his forging more touched of frenzy than ever before. Now whenever his hammer struck the metal, a radiant ring of light blossomed. Coupled with the golden whirlpool, the spectacle was more than awe-inspiring. Suddenly, Tang Wuling dropped one of his hammer-wielding arms and raised the other high into the air. Rise! And he slammed his hammer down. A beam of light shot out of the metal toward the skies. The golden whirlpool accelerated its spin, a droning buzz filling the surrounding space. The light rose 5 feet into the air. For a moment it quivered, then tendrils of blue bloomed from its peak. A second later, a dragon's roar shook the room as golden light sprouted from the blue, rising another 3 feet in height. Its 1,000 refined with spirit, forged together to give rise to the spirit, Yu Chen proclaimed. The label of first grade 1,000 refined was different between alloys and homogeneous metals. An alloy becoming 1,000 refined with spirit marked the success of the metal fusion, or at the very least, an initial success. A pleased smile formed on Tang Wuling's lips. It was his first successful alloy forging since he began learning about them. The beam of light shooting from the metal represented its spirit rising and signified a successful alloy forging. That light only appeared when the metals completely fused while retaining their spirit. The act of spirit rising differed for every blacksmith as it was affected by their martial souls. Furthermore, the tendrils of blue light came from Tang Wuling's blue silver brass, and the golden light stemmed from his golden dragon king bloodline. Since the golden light reached 5 feet into the air, it was clear as day that his golden dragon king bloodline eclipsed his blue silver brass. The height of the light correlated with the degree of the metal's fusion and the characteristics of the soul master's martial soul. Generally, a foot tall light was considered rare, yet Tang Wuling managed to get it to 3 feet. This was a blacksmithing miracle. The light of white, blue, and gold persisted for over 20 seconds before gradually dissipating. An oval lump of metal sat on the forging table. Its body glistened like jade, the cloud pattern within it dancing like mist. Even though it wasn't spirit refined, it was full of life, a silver aura hovering around it. This was jade silver. Yu Chen stood up from his seat, grabbed the metal, and placed it in an apparatus. The harmony rate is 91%, he declared. Only 91%. Tang Wuling thought his forging had been perfect and was disappointed by how far he was from 100%. Yu Chen's mouth twitched. Only. What do you think alloy forging is? Just a 60% harmony rate is enough to be considered a success, and with every 5% increase, the level of the metal also increases. The 91% harmony rate isn't due to solely your blacksmithing skills. No, it's also influenced by your martial soul and bloodline. Without those two, you never would have been able to produce something of this caliber. Kid, that's a 91% harmony rate. Even a saint blacksmith like me isn't guaranteed to produce this kind of feat. Of course, Yu Chen didn't forge alloys as easy as jade silver. In addition, heavy silver and magic silver shared many of the same qualities, which is the alloy forging process. However, Tang Wuling was only 13 years old. Once again, he set a new record in the blacksmithing world. Before he could think further, a voice derailed his thoughts. Teacher, can I keep this piece of jade silver? Asked Tang Wuling. Chapter 349, Saint Blacksmith's Notebook. Yu Chen glanced at the jade silver in Tang Wuling's hands and then switched his attention to his student. Of course you can take it, he said. This piece of jade silver was first grade 1,000 refined. Normally, the grade of the metal was finalized after the first forging, but alloys were different. If the alloys forged still retained their life, then they could be reforged a second or third time. The higher the grade of the alloy, the more times this was possible. By the second forging, most blacksmiths were able to grasp the essence of the metal and bring out its true potential. Compared to most spirit-refined metals, the jade silver in Tang Wuling's hands was far more valuable. Yu Chen's stare grew blank. He was at a loss, unsure how to progress with his student's instruction. Tang Wuling's success proved the validity of Feng Wuyu's teaching methods. After a few short days of lectures, he was able to fuse forge. His next step was to polish his technique and practice forging more alloys. Spirit refining would naturally follow, and by the way things were looking, he would become a 6th-ranked blacksmith in no more than 3 years. Not only that, Tang Wuling made up for his lacking soul power with his blood essence soul ring, and coupled with his powerful draconic bloodline, he was stronger than other blacksmiths. Now this was what it meant to be gifted. He belonged at Shrek Academy truly, no doubt about it. Only here could his monstrous talent blossom to a stunning flower. Take this. Yu Chen retrieved from his storage ring a book and handed it over. Tang Wuling accepted the book. He inspected it, noticing its lack of any titles. This notebook contains everything I know about spirit refining and alloy forging. Yu Chen watched as the sound of his words brought his student's line of sight back to his own. I was going to wait for you to become more familiar with spirit refining before giving it to you, but it seems you're ready. Honestly speaking, you're growing faster than I ever expected. Once you reach a certain level, there wouldn't be much I can do for you besides warning you if you ever stray down the wrong path. Never forget that your perception and efforts are crucial to advancing as a blacksmith. Take a look through the notebook when you have some time. Every blacksmith has their own forging style, so cross-reference it with both Feng Wuyu's and your own. Keep it safe and don't lose it. I wrote some of my secret alloy formulas in there. You can't let anyone else read it. Understood? Got it. Tang Wuling gazed at the notebook like it was a treasure. Its pages contained all of an 8th-rank Saint Blacksmith's knowledge pertaining to spirit refining and alloy forging, not to mention secret formulas. It was truly priceless no matter how anyone thought of it. Yu Chen smiled warmly at Tang Wuling's gentle handling of the notebook. This is all I can give you for now. I'm sure you're busy with various things at Shrek Academy, so you don't have to visit me so often in the future. Just come once a month. Feng Wuyu's teachings won't be any worse than mine. Study the contents of the book, focus on deepening your comprehension of blacksmithing, and find your own path. Think of spirit refining as gathering your strength and soul refining as taking flight. But I don't want you to be anxious to become a Saint Blacksmith. Build a solid foundation in the spirit refining stage, just like you did for 1,000 refining. That way, you'll be able to immediately grasp the meaning of soul refining when it comes time. The stronger your foundation, the higher your chances of becoming a divine blacksmith. A flash of light, and another object appeared in Yu Chen's hand. Here. This is your new blacksmith's badge. A pleased smile formed on his lips. Compared to Tang Wuling's current one, which was orange in color with 4 yellow stars, this badge showcased 5 twinkling purple stars peppering a white background. It was the noble and elegant badge of a 5th-rank blacksmith. In other words, those 5 stars represented a grandmaster blacksmith. Tang Wuling carefully exchanged his old one with the 5-star badge. The moment his fingers grazed the surface, he felt a cool breeze enveloping his body. His concentration grew. The badge felt heavy in his hands, at least twice as heavy as his old badge. 5-star badges are all forged by Saint Blacksmiths. I personally forged yours and added a soul circuit. More specifically, a focus circuit. It clears and invigorates your mind. Wearing the badge will help your spiritual power grow and increase your concentration when you forge. I soul refined the stars on the badge. That way, you can inspect them and have a glimpse of what soul refined metal feels like. I'm sure it'll be helpful for your development. Thank you, teacher. teacher. Tang Wuling couldn't keep his eyes off the badge, marveling at it. After a moment of hesitation, he finally put it on and hid it under his clothes. The cool breeze spread to the rest of his body, his mind sharpening and his perception expanding from 3 meters in range to 5. Although Mu Chen had explained the uniqueness of the badge in simple terms, it was far from that. Tang Wuling's strong mind and the added effects of the badge brought him to a shocking revelation. His spiritual power was now on par with those in the Spirit Sea realm. Teacher went through all the trouble just to make this for me. I'll add another star for you once you get to the 6th rank. Mu Chen smiled. Yes. Tang Wuling grinned. How did Elefeng assess your blacksmithing skills? Tang Wuling hesitated then lowered his head, not knowing how to answer. Mu Chen stared at Tang Wuling in surprise. What? Was he dissatisfied with you? Tang Wuling shook his head. He's not dissatisfied. He just always says I'm a slow learner and stupid. Is he crazy? Mu Chen blurted out, realizing how inappropriate his comment was a moment later. My bad. I'm not trying to insult him. I think Elder Feng is treating you like this because of how highly he values you. Therefore, his expectations are similarly high. Since he succeeded in forging an alloy, it's clear that his teaching methods aren't wrong. Mu Chen kept his more negative thoughts hidden. He thinks Wuling is stupid. Then are there any smart blacksmiths at all? Wait, isn't he also insulting me then? After stepping foot outside the building, Tang Wuling felt invigorated by the effects of his new badge. He was now officially a 5th rank blacksmith. A smile tugged at the corners of his mouth when he thought about the jade silver he forged. It was definitely worth loads of money. Despite successfully forging a few alloys during Feng Wuyu's instruction, he had not been permitted to keep them. The old man had kept them all. It wasn't unreasonable, however, since Feng Wuyu provided the metal for him to practice with. Moreover, forging alloys was the same as spirit refining. Failure resulted in a useless spiritless metal. The jade silver was the first alloy Tang Wuling had been allowed to keep. By the time he returned to his dormitory, the sun had set beyond the horizon. He didn't head to the dining hall at once as he grew accustomed to late night meals. By arriving later, he could avoid becoming a spectacle, the working student with a bottomless pit for a stomach. The trees rustled in a gentle night breeze, the cool scent of evening dew filling his nostrils. Shrek Academy was marvelous. Tang Wuling had come to fall in love with this place even with his hectic cultivation schedule. He was certain that he would enjoy his time here even more if he weren't so busy. The working student dormitory was as spotless as usual, not a single speck of dust to be seen. Instead of returning to his own room, he paid Yue's Hengyu a visit. Tang Wuling knocked on the door. Anyone home? Yue's Hengyu opened it, peeking his head through the crack. Come in. Then he turned around and walked back to his desk without another word. Aren't you being too cold? I only switched out one of the items from our previous agreement, said Tang Wuling, smiling. After his breakthrough, Tang Wuling had visited Yue's Hengyu to amend his order, requesting the spirit items needed for his 4th seal instead. However, Yue's Hengyu had already obtained one of the spirit items he had originally asked for and was furious. The whole event created a rift between them. It's shameful to not keep your word and alter the conditions at the last moment. Yue's Hengyu spat, jaws clenched. Tang Wuling scratched his chin in embarrassment. I didn't have a choice. Besides, didn't I lower the terms for you? It was originally 2 spirit items, but now it's 1. I'm losing out a lot as well. Bullshit. The 2 spirit items you originally requested were both 1,000 year, but now you want something that's 2,000 year. You really have the gall to say you're taking a loss? Yue's Hengyu glared at him. Tang Wuling sighed. All right. How about I just give you 1 piece of meteoric iron, and you don't have to pay me anything anymore. We'll just call it even. Chapter 350. Shocked. Yue's Hengyu was taken aback by Tang Wuling's suggestion. Really? Such an offer was definitely in his favor. First grade 1,000 refined meteoric iron was one of the best materials he could hope for to make his one-word battle armor, and all the better if it was free. True to his word, Tang Wuling retrieved a piece of meteoric iron from his storage ring and handed it over. Yue's Hengyu accepted it, inspecting it with a sharp eye. The way light reflected off the metal confirmed it was the real deal, and he gulped as his surprise grew. And here I thought you were a stingy person. I would never have expected you to be so generous. Let's do as you said and call it even between us. Also, if you make any good stuff in the future, he almost swallowed his tongue as Tang Wuling unbuttoned his shirt, revealing something white beneath. It was a dazzling 5-star badge. That's Yue's Hengyu's eyes nearly jumped out of their sockets. He pounced on Tang Wuling and ripped open his shirt. At that very moment, Shishi happened to be passing by Yue's Hengyu's room, a bucket of water in his arms. His attention strayed to the window, and he caught a glimpse of the scene within. Huh? Isn't that Wuling? What's he doing in Yue's Hengyu's room? From his perspective, Shishi could only see Tang Wuling from behind. Then he nearly yelped in surprise when he saw Yue's Hengyu crash into Tang Wuling and tear his shirt open like a madman. And most shockingly of all, drop his head to a very suspicious level. What the hell are they doing? Then it hit him like a speeding bullet. No way. It couldn't be. Oi. Just what are you trying to do? Tang Wuling shoved Yue's Hengyu off of him, recoiling back as he covered himself. 5th rank. Why are a 5th rank blacksmith? Yue's Hengyu could hardly believe it. In the brief moment he had come in contact with the badge, he felt its energy and knew it was a genuine 5th rank badge forged by a Saint blacksmith, a sign of the Holy Angel clan. He definitely wouldn't be wrong about such thing. Not when there were 7th rank craftsmen in his family. For every profession, the 5th rank existed as a great divider that separated peasants from lords. The moment a blacksmith hit the 5th rank, their status increased 100-fold. At that rank they could forge spirit refined metals, material that served as the foundation of 2-word battle armors. But in the face of all this, all Yue's Hengyu could think about was Tang Wuling's age. Despite being a few years his junior, Tang Wuling had reached the 5th rank. Yue's Hengyu's heart lurched, and countless thoughts flooded his mind in an instant. He was certain that Tang Wuling was the youngest 5th rank blacksmith in history. Yeah, so if that's all you wanted to talk about, I'm leaving. However, just as Tang Wuling turned away, an object fell out of his sleeve. Yue's Hengyu's eyes darted to the object. Isn't that jade silver? Meteoric iron was precious, but in no way could it compare to jade silver, an alloy. Is this a spirit alloy? Yue's Hengyu asked, bending to pick it up. Tang Wuling was a step ahead of him, however, and he snatched it from the floor. Did you forge that? The words tumbled out of Yue's Hengyu's mouth. Tang Wuling smiled wryly. Yes, though it was a fluke. I can't even remember how many times I failed before I succeeded in forging that. The harmony rate isn't that great. How high is it? Yue's Hengyu asked, suspicious. I don't know. My teacher just said it isn't that high. If Mu-Jen were present to witness this exchange, he would be struck speechless. Never in a million years would he have guessed that his treasured disciple possessed such a cunning side. Let me have it. I can deliver it to my family and have them check. It's important to know exactly how high the harmony rate is. You know, I can just check it at the Blacksmiths Association, said Tang Wuling. Yue's Hengyu didn't flinch. You still don't trust me? A chuckle escaped from Tang Wuling's lips. All right then. He handed the jade silver to Yue's Hengyu, departing with a wave goodbye. Yue's Hengyu resolved himself as he took in Tang Wuling's departing figure. If you really can forge alloys, then I need to form a relationship with him no matter the cost. It'll be worth it. By the time Tang Wuling was out the door, his face had morphed into a pleased smirk. His charade wasn't for the sake of teasing Yue's Hengyu, but to manipulate him in an effort to carve out a good relationship between them. Tang Wuling still remembered how haughty Yue's Hengyu had acted the day they first met, throwing his weight around and purchasing a drink shop to get a girl's number. The Holy Angel clan must be wealthy and influential, a great help in acquiring spirit items he would later need. There were 18 golden dragon king seals, each one stronger than the previous. Each required spirit items more expensive than the last to break. Fortunately, Tang Wuling shattered his 3rd seal without paying anything, but the process still required a 10,000-year spirit item. He couldn't rely on luck or the free gifts of others. He had to prepare to buy what he needed himself. Only by becoming a great blacksmith could he afford the materials needed to cultivate, break the seals, and preserve his life. Because of this, blacksmithing had crawled its way to the top of his priority list without him realizing. Every seal he broke made him more powerful, but poor as he was and struggling to buy the items needed, he feared more for his life. The strength the golden dragon king offered him was as dangerous as it was great. Failing to shatter a seal would mean death. Tang Wuling couldn't for the life of him guess what he would need to break the later seals. Just the 4th required spirit items of the 2 to 3,000 year level. Perhaps 10,000-year spirit items before the 9th seal were in order. But then there was the problem of finding them. For now, he had to prepare for the future. His stomach wailed mid-step. Even if the sky shattered to pieces and fell tomorrow, food always came first. Tucked within the shadows, Shishi watched Tang Wuling march for the dining hall, face twisted into a grimace. He glanced behind him, zooming in on Yue's Hengyu's room. Gulping, he fled. After eating dinner, Tang Wuling returned straight to the working students' dormitory. Finished forging for the day, he planned to extend his cultivation period for the night. Instead of walking to his room, however, he made a detour once he stepped inside, heading for the grove behind the dormitory. It was a quiet place, generally untouched by the hubbub of many people living under the same roof. More often than not, he was the only person there. Tang Wuling stood in the center, basking in the tranquility of the forest, silently adjusting his soul power and blood essence. Little by little the range of his perception expanded, and he became in every sense of the word aware of the surrounding plants. He could feel the life pulsing from them, their simple emotions, joy, anger, fear. He could feel it all. Although blue silver grass was not strong in the traditional sense, it enabled him to connect to the world of plants. In addition to his increased cultivation speed, his perception range grew in this state as well. Not only that, because he was also a fifth-rank blacksmith, which had raised his spiritual power, his senses were especially sharp today. He could hear the murmuring voices of the trees, the fiddling of the blood within his veins, the powerful and rhythmic beat of his heart that pumped the scarlet liquid of life throughout his body. Tang Wuling took pleasure in those sensations. He slowly swung his hands in circles, a gentle breeze lingering in their wake, pure white light emitted from them. It was the soul power of the mysterious heaven method, and circles of the same white light formed with the movement of his hands. And controlling crane, capturing dragon kicked into action. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.